After a dreadful plane crash, Piggy wakes up in a forest. Sore and confused, he puts on his glasses and starts searching the area. When he finds a fruit on the ground, he picks it up and licks it, but flipping it over reveals worms, so he drops it. Then he's startled by a pig running nearby. Eventually Piggy finds the wrecked plane, but he doesn't dare to approach it because there's a rotting animal body near it. He decides to instead get some fruit from a tree to feed himself. While enjoying the fruit, Piggy hears a noise and starts running, but he stops when he notices it's Ralph. The boys decide to stick together and keep exploring the area, only pausing when Piggy needs to rest because of his asthma. When they find a stream, Ralph immediately takes off his clothes and jumps into the water. He has lots of fun swimming and asks Piggy to join him, but Piggy says he can't swim because of his asthma. Ralph has known how to swim since he was 5 thanks to his Navy officer father and offers to teach Piggy, who explains that his parents are dead. Piggy only takes off his socks and shoes to hesitantly walk into the stream, so he and Ralph splash each other for fun. Afterward, Piggy finds a very big conch and breaks its pointy end, explaining that his aunt used to have one and blew it all the time to make noise. The boys reach the beach and Ralph blows the conch as loud as possible a couple of times, which helps a large group of boys find them. They all share some fruit before wondering what happened to the adults from the playing, since they haven't seen any. Their discussion is interrupted by Jack and his choir group. As Piggy invites them to their meeting, Simon suddenly collapses. Piggy warns them that their uniforms will make them boil in the sun, but Jack dismisses his worry because Simon is always fainting. The other choir boys are trying to move Simon, but Jack tells them to leave him on the sand. Then Jack tells Piggy he talks too much and calls him fatty before Ralph says they should choose a leader. Jack thinks he should be chief because he's the choir's head boy, but Ralph suggests they nominate several boys and let everyone vote. After Simon wakes up, the kids start voting. All the choir boys vote for Jack while the rest vote for Ralph, who wins by a landslide. Since Jack gets angry, Ralph tells him he can still be the leader of the choir, and Jack's mood improves when the choir boys decide they shall be the hunters. Desperate to know where they are, Simon, Jack, Ralph, and Piggy start making their way to the top of the mountain. Piggy struggles to keep up with the others because of his asthma, and Ralph encourages him to keep going. They end up arguing and Piggy reminds him that he wouldn't be chief without him. Eventually the boys find the dead pilot. Ralph wants to bury him, but Jack thinks the pilot made a mistake and he must take responsibility for it. Then Ralph proposes to give him a Navy burial at sea instead of a Christian one, which Jack finds more adequate. Piggy doesn't like the idea, but the others vote in favor, so they try to move the body. Since it's attached to a chair, it's too heavy for them to move, so the 3 boys decide to push it down the hill while ignoring Piggy's protests. The body brutally crashes and Simon says a short prayer. When the team comes back, they explain that they've looked at the whole area from the mountain. They're on an island with no way out and there are no houses around. The adult passengers are most likely dead. Everyone starts talking at the same time and Jack tries to leave with the choir boys to hunt, but Ralph makes them stay. Then Piggy comes up with a rule to stay organized: nobody speaks unless they're holding the conch. Piggy says that they need to prioritize shelter, food, and toilets. Jack and the choir mock him, but the other kids agree with him. Then a young boy with a birthmark on his face shares that he saw a beast in the forest and thinks it'll come back tonight, but Ralph assures him there are no beasts around here. Everyone is tense, so Jack promises that if a beast shows up, the hunters will kill it. Ralph then starts assigning chores without taking the conch from Piggy. The boys spread and Piggy enters the woods to get sticks for a fire. Suddenly a piglet jumps out of a bush and Piggy decides to chase it. When the piglet is cornered against a tree, Jack comes out with a knife in hand, yet he hesitates. Piggy tells him to kill the animal, but Jack won't move and the piglet ends up running away. Jack blames Piggy for it and claims he'd only been waiting for a moment to choose where to stab it. When Piggy calls him a liar, Jack warns him that Ralph will eventually abandon him. Piggy promises not to tell anyone about what happened and Jack tries to spook him by mentioning the beast before he leaves. Afterward, Piggy continues gathering wood with the help of a pair of twins and Simon, who hears him singing and asks him to teach him the song. They end up singing together and Piggy even dances. Later Ralph tells Piggy that he wants to be a good chief and asks for his real name, so Piggy tells him that he's Nicholas, but his family calls him Nicky. When they finally have enough wood, they want to start a big fire that could act as a signal, but they realize they don't have matches. Piggy points out that it's rotten wood, so it's not useful, but they ignore him. They remember using glasses to burn ants, so they forcefully take Piggy's while ignoring his complaints again. Ralph hears him calling him for help, yet he still takes the glasses and points them at the wood until the sun starts a fire. The boys celebrate, however their mood drops when the fire begins spreading out of control. Piggy points out he was right about the rotten wood, yet Jack insists the fire is only getting bigger and it won't spread much more. Soon the flames reach the trees and the kids panic. Piggy tells them they have to chop down trees to build a fire break, but Ralph points out they have no tools. The group runs away as the fire keeps spreading and the burning trees begin falling off the cliff. Piggy tries to run as fast as he can, but his asthma causes him to slow down. He forces his body to keep moving and he ends up tripping and falling. His head hits a tree and he passes out. Seconds later Piggy wakes up and manages to leave the forest. All the boys are at the beach watching the fire spread through the island. The younger boys have fallen asleep and won't wake up, so Piggy grabs the conch and starts blowing. It takes him a few tries, but eventually he manages to make a loud noise, which finally wakes the children up. At that moment Ralph notices that the fire isn't reaching the other half of the island and concludes that the rocks are stopping it. Piggy starts counting heads and realizes that the boy with the birthmark is missing. Sometime later, Jack and Maurice are in the woods tracking some paw prints. While carefully sneaking around, Jack keeps thinking about his family and the day they put him on the plane. During the flight, he saw signs of potential danger, like the plane shaking, things falling, and a flight attendant looking very sick, yet he had told himself it was nothing. Suddenly the plane started to fall and all the boys were screaming, but Jack kept his stoic face. In the present, Jack tries to approach a pig, but Maurice steps on a branch and the noise sends the animal running. The boys run after it and throw spears. Unfortunately, the pig manages to escape and the duo has to go back to camp. On the beach, Piggy is telling stories to the little boys. Ralph is trying to build a shelter, but the sticks keep falling. When Jack mocks him for not building anything, Ralph mocks him back since the hunters haven't captured anything either. Despite their argument, they decide to race to sea and have some fun in the water together. Afterward they rest on the sand and discuss the situation. Ralph mentions that the little ones are very frightened and they scream when they have nightmares. Simon joins them and says that the young kids sense there's something on the island. In fact, he thinks he felt it in the woods too. When he asks Jack if he didn't sense something following them while they were hunting, Jack denies it. Then Jack asks Ralph if he wants to join the hunters, but Ralph turns him down because he thinks the chief must stay in the camp with everyone. At that moment Piggy approaches them and complains about the little ones not using the tidal pool for the toilet. However, Ralph tells him to save it for the meeting. Piggy thought this was a pre-meeting for the core leaders, but Jack denies it and leaves. Later, while gathering wood with his friends, Jack gets the feeling something is following him, but he doesn't comment on it. Suddenly he sees a glint in the distance and notices a piece of the plane stuck on a very high rock formation. He immediately starts climbing it and gets more nervous the higher he goes. When he almost slips, he says this is getting too dangerous and his friends agree he should come down. A terrified Jack tries to climb down, but he can't find a spot to place his feet. When he's about to panic, his friends rush to guide him and together they manage to return to the ground. Jack thanks them and asks them not to tell anyone. On top of the mountain, the hunters are taking care of the signal fire when they see a group of pigs on the grass in the distance. They realize that's where the pigs rest, so they plan to find a passage to that spot and attack them. Jack goes to the stream and starts covering his face with mud, hoping he can blend in during the hunt. Simon thinks Jack is having a good time here, so Jack clarifies he's just taking things seriously and shares some stories from his father, who went on a survival trip as a child. However, Simon thinks his and Jack's father won't search for them, so they can only hope that the other kids' humble families will. Jack swears he isn't afraid, just worried, so Simon takes pity on him and helps him paint his face. The next day Jack makes a drawing in the sand representing the hunters killing a pig. Later Piggy tries to tell the kids some things they have to improve to make surviving easier, but nobody takes him seriously. They talk over him or mock him. Ralph takes the conch and tries to calm everyone down, yet they don't respect him either. Then Jack takes his turn and tells everyone that they're crybabies. He's been all over the island and hasn't seen any beast, so he wants everyone to shut up and listen to Ralph. Next, a kid shares that he dreamed about fighting twisty things in the trees. When he woke up, he saw something big and horrid moving nearby. The others don't believe him and laugh at his story. Another young boy wants to say something too, however, since everyone keeps laughing and mocking each other, the poor boy can only cry. Jack talks to the kid in private and learns that he saw something in the sea. Later the hunters paint all their bodies with mud and upgrade their spears with sharpened rocks. They follow the path that Maurice discovered while exploring and finally find the pig's resting place. The boys approach them in a circle, moving very slowly and quietly, however the pigs see them anyway. The mother sends her babies running, but the boys surround her and don't let her escape. Jack attacks her with his spear, which breaks on contact and doesn't cause any damage. Another boy then begins hitting the pig repeatedly with his spear until the animal is bleeding and can barely move. Jack pulls out his knife and kills the pig by slashing her neck, which splatters blood all over his face. The boys can only stare in silence as the reality of killing sinks in. They can't help but wonder if her babies will die without her. Afterward they tie the pig to 2 poles to transport it and impale her head on a branch, carrying it as a trophy as they move through the forest singing about their victory. They stop at a stream to wash the blood off and howl to celebrate. On a rock, Maurice is surprised to find a suitcase and everyone rushes to check its contents. They eat the toothpaste and read a diary to discover that these are Simon's things. There's a second suitcase nearby, but this one only has women's clothes and makeup, which they use as war paint. Eventually they return to the camp, only to find all the other boys screaming and blowing the conch. There's a ship in the distance and they're desperate to get its attention since the signal fire is out. Ralph is up there trying to light it again and Jack rushes to help him, but it's too late, the ship is already gone. An angry Ralph scolds the hunters for abandoning the fire and Jack tries to defend his actions, but the other hunters apologize. Jack thinks the group should be grateful for the pig, but Piggy calls him out as well. This makes Jack so angry that he punches Piggy and Ralph has to pull him away while Piggy falls and his glasses crack. Jack then says they're on an adventure island and yet they're only doing boring things, so he's starting his own camp. None of the other kids wants to join him, so he leaves alone. Once he's far enough, Jack starts crying. When the others return to camp, Piggy has no choice but to remove the cracked glass from the frames, so now he only sees well with one eye. Ralph admits he doesn't want to be chief anymore, but Piggy convinces him to stay and Ralph promises he'll protect him. While they're distracted, most of the hunters sneak out and join Jack. They immediately start working together and finally manage to build a shelter. Later in the woods, Simon finds the pilot's body on the hill. At the same time, Jack starts reading Simon's diary. One night, something falls from the sky and lands near the signal fire. Soon something starts moving in the woods. Meanwhile, Simon dreams about his days in the church choir. He had a very good voice and loved singing, but he felt uncomfortable being in church because of secret feelings for Jack. Some of this information was in his diary. In the morning, Piggy worries about some clouds he sees in the distance because they may mean a storm is coming. Ralph and Simon tell him not to worry and try to get him to play in the water to no avail. Later, Piggy tells more stories to the young kids to get them to sleep. In private, Simon and Ralph discuss the state of things. Simon reveals that his father hit his mother, so he hated him. However, when his dad asked him who his favorite was, Simon was too afraid and said he couldn't decide. In return, his father grabbed his mother by the hair and told her that not even her son loved her properly. When the man left the room, Simon's mother yelled at him before going after her husband. Simon admits he's a coward and says that Jack is one too, but Ralph isn't, so the kids need him. Ralph admits he doesn't understand their relationship, so Simon shares that outside school, he and Jack only had each other. However, after their vacations were over, Jack would ignore Simon to hang out with classmates. Their conversation is interrupted when the twins scream, claiming they saw the beast. Moments later, the group visits Jack's camp while carrying a big leaf as a sign of peace. The twins explain that they were taking care of the signal fire when they saw a terrifying beast, so they ran away. Piggy wants to work together to protect the young kids and Simon is on his side, but Jack thinks they need to leave this to the hunters and insults Simon for not joining him like the other choir boys did. Ralph decides that his group will go with the hunters because they must kill the beast together. There's only one area of the island they haven't explored because it can only be reached through a narrow rocky path. As chief, Ralph volunteers to cross it and tells everyone to wait, however Jack decides to go with him. Both boys move slowly and very carefully. Ralph makes it first and offers his hand to Jack, who refuses to grab it and keeps advancing until he arrives too. The duo searches the area but finds nothing. They discuss what to do next and this escalates into another argument. Jack thinks Ralph is as secretly scared and in return, Ralph says Jack isn't as hardened as he wants them to think. Jack gets angry and wonders who told him that. When the duo reunites with the rest of the group, Jack reads the diary in front of Simon to taunt him. The search continues for hours and Piggy worries when he notices it's getting late. He thinks they need to rest and come back in the morning. Jack insults him but Simon defends Piggy, so Jack agrees to let him go. Ralph says that a smaller group will move faster, so only 5 boys keep on searching and the others go back. Simon asks Jack for his diary, but Jack refuses to give it to him and calls it the saddest story he ever read. Eventually Ralph starts getting tired and stops moving, so Simon stops with him. Jack calls Simon Ralph's dog and keeps walking with his 2 hunters. A worried Ralph doesn't want to leave them alone and joins them again, ignoring Simon's warnings. Eventually they reach the top of the mountain and are shocked to see a big piece of fabric. Suddenly it rises and reveals a terrifying face, so the boys start running in fear. Simon stays a second longer and notices the monster moving strangely, as if it was a doll. Minutes later Jack starts blowing the conch at the camp to wake everyone up. He informs them that they've seen the beast and they have to hunt it, which Ralph finds ironic because he ran away like everyone else. An argument ensues and Ralph tackles Jack to start a fight. They fall into the water and Jack strikes Ralph with the conch several times to win. Then Jack leaves with the hunters and Simon has to pull Ralph out of the water. That night, Simon can't sleep. He leaves the camp and covers his body with mud before sneaking into Jack's camp, where he takes back his dairy. After rereading a few stories about his fun days with Jack, Simon throws the diary into the fire. He then tells Ralph and Piggy that he's happier with them than with his family. Suddenly the younger kids start running and screaming in fear. It turns out the hunters are chasing them while wearing masks and carrying torches. Jack calls them all thieves but also shares that they've killed another pig and they're invited to eat. The hunters call him chief and Ralph wonders if that means he'll be responsible for the signal fire, but Jack doesn't answer. In the evening, Simon visits the pilot's body, which has become a skeleton. He does some weird gestures as if gathering its energy. When he returns to camp, he discovers more boys left for Jack's place. Simon thinks it's a trap, but Piggy thinks they could get the meat and leave. Ralph decides they should go, so the 3 boys gather the rest of the group and go to the meat party. The hunters are making music with branches and coconuts and wrestling for fun while the pig is roasting on the fire. Jack makes a speech and everyone chants along, almost looking like a cult. He gives Ralph the first cut of flesh and a frustrated Simon walks away. Soon dark clouds cover the sky and thunder rumbles. Simon finds the mother pig's head on a stick and hallucinates her voice calling him crazy, weak, and ignorant. She tells him to run, so Simon does exactly that. As he moves, he sees visions of the boy with the birthmark. Meanwhile, Jack promises the kids more food if they join his team and everyone cheers for him, ignoring Ralph when he reminds them that he's the chief. The wind and the thunder are getting worse, so Ralph tries to tell them that they need to find shelter. He's ignored again and the boys run to the shore to dance like a tribe. Soon it starts to rain and the kids play a new game. A boy pretends to be the beast and the others pretend to hunt him with the spears. This horrifies Ralph and Piggy. The group repeats a chant about killing the beast while noticing something moving in the woods, so they go after it. They quickly attack with their spears without taking a good look, only discovering the truth when it's too late. They haven't killed the beast, they've killed Simon. The body is dropped in the water and the current takes it away. The next morning Ralph goes for a walk to the woods and remembers the day he and his father went hunting. A buck saw them and tried to run away, so they started chasing it. Unfortunately, Ralph tripped and fell, hurting his arm. Later at home, Ralph told the story to his sick mother. Before he went to bed, his father told him that he wanted to go hunting again the next day, but Ralph chose to stay with his mom. In the evening, the boys are trying to sleep but can't because they hear some weird noises. Suddenly the hunters attack their camp and hold everyone down while they steal Piggy's glasses. After they leave, Piggy realizes they wanted his glasses to make fire. Sometime later something falls from the sky and lands in the ocean. Meanwhile, Ralph blows the conch to start a meeting and Piggy notices that the only ones left in this camp are himself, Ralph, the twins, and 3 young kids. They discuss the situation and agree to go to Jack's camp to try to negotiate. When they arrive, they notice that everyone is behaving like savages. Ralph calls Jack a dirty thief, causing him to tackle him. A new fight begins and the boys cheer for their leader as he keeps beating Ralph up with his spear. The moment is interrupted when Piggy grabs the conch and calls out everyone's bad behavior. Jack tells his guys to shut him up, so Roger throws a rock and hits Piggy in the head. The conch falls and breaks as Piggy collapses. Ralph runs to his side and tries to help him, only for Jack to order the hunters to catch them. The twins are captured pretty quickly while Ralph hits Roger with a rock and escapes with Piggy. The duo manages to reach the woods and hides under some big leaves, so when the hunters come looking for them they don't see them. Once the hunters are gone, Piggy tells Ralph that he doesn't feel well and throws up. Ralph holds his hand but doesn't mention how badly his head is bleeding. After wrapping his shirt around the wound, Ralph tries to help Piggy move, but he's too weak and keeps falling. Ralph tells him to rest while he looks for some water, ignoring Piggy begging him not to leave him alone. While searching the area, Ralph counts the trees to track the way back but also sees a vision of Simon watching him. Eventually he reaches the stream and fills 2 coconuts with water, but he has to hide when the hunters appear on the opposite side. When he tries to run away, the hunters see him anyway and start chasing him. Ralph falls as he runs and hurts his ankle, so now he moves more slowly. He decides to hide in the tall grass and wait until the hunters are gone. Minutes later Ralph finally returns to Piggy and shares the water while noticing all the blood on the ground. Piggy tells him that if the hunters find them, Ralph must run without him. They go to sleep under the big leaves after Piggy says he's cold. The next morning, Ralph wakes up to find Piggy dead and has to dig a hole to bury him while dealing with his grief. He remembers the day his mother died and how a friend of his dad's tried to comfort him. The man told him that his father would need him after this. After wrapping up his ankle wound with some leaves, Ralph sneaks into Jack's camp and tells the twins that Piggy died. Unfortunately, Roger hears them and yells to alert the others. A chase immediately ensues in the forest and Ralph is having trouble running, so he hides underwater in the stream. Once Jack is close enough, Ralph throws a rock at him as a distraction and emerges to fight him. They struggle for a while until Ralph steps back, asking Jack to make a choice. They blame each other for everything and Jack yells to call the other hunters, so Ralph has to run again. The chase continues for hours and Ralph decides to hide to catch his breath. The hunters can't find him, so Roger thinks they have to smoke him out. He uses Piggy's glasses to start a fire, then the group spreads the flames using torches. Soon the area is covered in smoke and Ralph can't breathe, however that smoke also helps him sneak out without being seen. As he wanders through the forest, he has a vision of Piggy smiling at him. Tired of this, Ralph yells Jack's name, saying that he surrenders as the fire keeps spreading around him. Eventually Ralph reaches the beach and is shocked to find a boat with 2 Navy officers. When the hunters come looking for him, they freeze at the sight of adults. The captain is horrified by the sight of their savagery and Ralph's mention of dead kids. When the man asks who the leader is, Jack doesn't answer, so Ralph says it's him as he starts to cry. The captain takes them away in his boat and the boys realize they'll have to live with their crimes once they return to civilization. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.